Welcome to episode 1 of Geeksphere TV. We've done a couple of small snippets over the last couple of weeks, but this is our first live episode.
Oh man, it's good to be here, and we got a green screen!
Yes, a real green screen. So hopefully if this works, if we go, we should now have our new set studio that we're going to use for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, until I get sick of the colours
Yeah.
and whatnot. And I mean, this is great, because we can put whatever we like on there, like this, or back to the set, as you say. So, I mean,
Yeah.
we've got a lot of options here. It's quite cool, really.
Yeah, no, we're really lucky to be here, and we thank everyone that's been helping us pull this together. But anyway, let's get on with the show, eh?
Yeah, let's get into it. What do we got this week?
So, it's been a really interesting week. Last week was a week for Microsoft to do all its launches. This week has been more around who's sitting in the market and how things are going. There's a lot of stats coming out around what's going on in the IT market. And I think we're going to sort of delve into a little bit of that.
Yep.
We look at some airlines.
Yes.
Something small. We obviously, Apple have released their iPad mini, and there's quite a lot of positive reviews coming around that, so we're going to discuss that.
Yep.
1 week on with the Surface for me. And then we're going to look at Halo 4 got launched as well in New Zealand.
Oh my goodness, I haven't seen a launch like this for a long time. So, yeah, we got a little bit of a surprise snippet of what Halo and Microsoft got up to.
Yeah.
They brought a country. Can you believe that?
It's a small country.
It is a small country,
But
but
they brought it.
They brought it so that they could use it for a little while. They did give it back at the end, of course. So.
Yeah, and then you and I are going to have a little debate.
Yes.
We'll see how we go with that one, but it might not be a debate at all. We don't know. Anyway, let's move on. So, Android leads in the market share for the mobile market.
Right.
Stats have come out. They're saying that Android has come out and it is absolutely smoking all other competition. When I say smoking, they have sold over 100 million units, and Apple, RIM, Microsoft are a distant second, third, and fourth, respectfully.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, Microsoft is a very distant... And the market is very much broken up between two players, right? It's Apple and Android, and BlackBerry, Microsoft... Symbion's Nokia,
yeah,
or Nokia Symbian, I should say. That's all below the 5% threshold, really, or well below. I mean, they wouldn't get into power.
Oh no, absolutely not, unless they did a coalition.
That's right. So yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to see. What is the stat I saw on Tech Day the other day? It was 75% of smartphones that were shipped worldwide were Android in the last quarter. The third quarter of 2012. That's phenomenal. I mean, that's a huge shift from where we used to be, right?
Yeah, so just to give you a size and scale of actually how big this really is, there's about 181 million smartphones shipped in in last year.
Yep.
From now to last year. And 100 million of those were Android devices.
Yeah, that's
100 million of those. So it's, I mean, we're talking Apple had 25 million.
Yep.
So it's a 4-time multiplier. So Android as a platform is dominating.
It is.
The Galaxy S3 by Samsung has been one of the leading lights that has really driven this through. But we are seeing other platforms now starting to step up.
Yep. Now, the thing that confuses me the most about this, right, is that we have all these stats that are out there looking at different markets, verticals, smartphone, and then there's the software platforms and all that sort of stuff. So what I see when I looked at the likes of Stats Counter, which supposedly comes off website stats reading, it sort of shows that that iOS devices are still holding very firm above the 50% mark. And Android's gaining, but it's not sort of the gain that we're seeing here. So maybe it's a flow down effect on the market so those stats start creeping up from here on in. But it's kind of confusing to try and figure out who exactly is doing what, where, and how in the market.
I think I know why that's happened.
Go on.
In those stats, the iPads will bump up the operating system.
Yes, now, and that's another interesting stat we're starting to see is that iPad is still the very dominant market player when it comes to tablets. I mean, they are well above 75%, I think, last time I saw.
Well, actually... Funny you should mention that. It's the stats a week.
Breaking news.
So, as we know, tablets have taken over.
Yep.
So they're really growing. In fact, they're growing about 6.7% from where they were. But Apple has dropped to 50% market share. Now, just to give you an idea, they were 80%. They were the only player, let's be honest,
Right.
in that space. So they had a lot of market share. But now with the likes of the Nexus coming out, the Kindle HD Fire, and all the other devices, they are starting to chew into the market share that Apple had.
Right.
So it's starting to really even out in the playing field out there.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a huge decrease, which is to be expected in a market as it goes through. But now we're actually seeing a lot of these other players come in and take a bit of market share away from Apple. But they are still the leading player by a long way at this point in time.
Yeah, for sure. And it is interesting to see just exactly who's getting involved in it. We're going to touch on this a bit later when we look at some of these e-readers that are out there.
Yeah.
The likes of Kobo, who are just sort of, for me, have been a little bit of the silent ebook partner or vendor, which just hasn't really appeared on my radar. But they're actually bringing out some really nice kit.
Yeah, now I don't know much about Kobo, so I'm looking forward to you talking around that, because I've got a Kindle Fire at home. I've used other Kindles. Barnes & Noble in the US have their one.
Yep.
Sony have theirs. There's lots of them around, so I really want to hear about what these guys are doing, because again, this is a market for us in New Zealand that we don't get a lot of choice, and I think we tend to take it as gospel that it's only the Apple devices that are out there or the Kindle devices, and there's a wide market. If you go out to Amazon.com, you can have a good look at what's going on out there.
Yeah, it's good time to be a consumer. There's definitely great degree of product that's out there that allows us just to make our own choices, you know. And the one thing that I do like is for all the foibles that Samsung have had in court with Apple, you know, copyright or copy information, all that sort of, those sort of legal things. It is interesting to see that people are accepting, especially the Samsung Galaxy type devices, as a device that's comparable to the iPad.
Yeah, I think we're going to cover off a little bit the Apple versus Samsung, and for people that aren't up to speed, we'll hopefully bring you up to speed about what's been going on there. But yeah, I think people they don't care. I think at the end of the day, people don't care about all this other litigation that's going on.
Right.
I think a lot of the media overplays the amount. People look at price,
Yep.
and people look at the App Store.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, that ecosystem that lives in the Google world is actually almost on par with what's in the Apple world.
Yep.
The quality of the apps is another story, but the size of it is, it's pretty on par there.
Yeah, good news. Good news for all involved, and especially for consumers. I was saying to someone the other day that just with the recent Apple launch of the iPad Mini and the Surface device, Microsoft coming out with Windows 8, and Google announcing some of their new devices as well, it's a great time to be a consumer in the market, because not only prices creeping down on this stuff, the quality is going way up.
Yeah, I mean, even if you go into stores now, like in New Zealand, like JB Hi-Fi, Noel Leeming's, Harvey Norman's, you know, gone are the bland-looking PCs that are there. You've now got all the new Windows 8 devices, some of them which we've showed you in our little mini episodes previously last week.
Yep.
You've got all the new MacBook Airs. You've got all these new, really nice devices, and it's become a highly competitive design market now.
Yeah.
It really has.
Yeah, and we both got, I think, pretty stylish devices. I mean, I'm just totally in love with my Samsung Ultrabook now. It goes with me everywhere because it's so light. Makes a slight difference on my largest 17-inch laptop I had beforehand. And of course, you're now a complete Surface fanboy.
Yeah, I'm rocking the Surface at the moment. So, but it's amazing. I had really high expectations for this device, and so far, the only thing that's really let me down is that I would love to have it had 3G.
Right.
That's my only gripe right now. So, using the device day to day, I'm able to type, I'm able to write all the blog posts for Geeksphere TV. We've got our show notes on here right now. I can watch videos. I've had no limitation. There are thousands and thousands of apps in the store, so that was another big fear. I thought I'd be sitting there with 40 apps or something silly like that. So, look, overall, a really good experience. And like I said, I have stopped using my my iPad and my Ultrabooks and bits and pieces I had at home, and this is now my primary device.
And I will say this, we did get a few comments from a few people about our videos. The keyboard does work, and the keyboard works very well.
It was human error. Me. I am the keyboard issue. I just wasn't clipping it on properly. So it was a late night when we filmed that one. So let's change tack for a sec.
Yep.
We don't normally talk about this too much, but Boeing.
I'm totally in love with Boeing at the moment. A couple of years ago, I got the chance to head off to the United States and went to the Boeing factory.
It's a cool tour.
Fantastic tour. You've got to go and see it. And we just happened to time it just as the very first FAA compliant 787, or the Dreamliner, was actually being polished, literally being cut and polished and being seen light for the very first time. And I think about a week or so later it took to the air. So it's been a long time coming for Boeing to get this aircraft out onto the tarmac, as it were.
A lot of iterations.
And we now have, finally, the news earlier this month that United have started their first commercial flights of the 787 Dreamliner. Now, I think this is the first full launch of a commercial flight of the Dreamliner. This is the first FAA-approved internal flight in the United States. And so United have done a great job, actually, promoting what they're doing around the Dreamliner. I mean, it is a fantastic looking aircraft, and they have really done their homework in trying to promote this thing. You've got to go and see hub.united.com to have a look at the virtual tour around the 787. Now, this is a phenomenal aircraft. I mean, it has every luxury that they can fit into it without breaking the bank, of course. And so the whole idea is just to try and improve your comfort as you fly across the world. And one of the things they do is they have electronically managed the light within the cabin, so it dims, so you get the full sort of cycle of day and night that you often miss when you're flying, because I mean, I flew to the UK the long way around, I should say. And it was daytime for a very long time, and my body didn't like that at all. So what they've done is they've dimmed it. They can put lights in the roof to sort of create twilight and all those sort of effects. So they've just taken these minor things and they've really improved the experience for flyers. LCD light shades. Don't pull anything down. It just blacks out the window. And which is good because, supposedly we're supposed to lift those suckers when we come in for landing. So the captain can just flick a switch and open the windows straight away. And there's just a lot of features to it, I mean, this is going to be a fantastic aircraft.
And is this so? At the moment, it's only domestic flights in America.
Yeah, they have done international flights. So they have been giving it a test. Of course, it came down here as a tour with Air New Zealand a while ago.
Because we are getting some, aren't we?
Yeah, Air New Zealand are definitely getting them. And so I think we're going to try and touch base with Air New Zealand and have a chat to them about what they're doing around the 787 Dreamliner. But yeah, this is a phenomenal aircraft, and in a time when air travel is so expensive, they are working hard to try and drop those costs of running aircraft, and also improve safety. And it's a bit of a risk actually, because this aircraft is like no other. I mean, it has a single carbon fibre wing, tip to tip, is one single carbon fibre.
That's a giant piece of carbon.
It is, and it curves.
Absolutely huge.
It curves in the air horrifically. You'd think the thing's about to snap off, but it doesn't. So yeah, it's a unique aircraft, and really encompasses everything Boeing does to try and improve air travel, not only just with performance of the aircraft, but comfort as well. So I am just biting at the bit to get a seat on one of these aircraft.
We're going to have to wait for New Zealand to get a black one, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm honestly, if they have one and they're flying to Sydney, I'll probably just fly to Sydney and then fly back. I want to experience flying in a 787. So well done, United. Again, go and have a look at hub.united.com. They have a great resource just on their 787, not only what they're doing with it, but some absolutely stunning videos, walkthroughs of what the aircraft is, how it runs. It's brilliant. So go and have a look at that website.
Cool. Now, there's a war. There is a war in our land in IT, and it's Apple versus Samsung. These two have probably gone 10 rounds of a 15-round fight so far. And it's been punch, counter punch. And for those of you who don't know what's been going on, Apple sued Samsung sued Apple around their phones, and especially around the Galaxy S3 copying Apple's iPhone design.
Right.
Now, I'm not going to go into the full litigation of it, but it has literally been court after court after court. They've gone to different courts around the world, and they're currently in the UK. Now, Apple won some parts of the case, but then Samsung counter won. And what I mean by that is that Apple put up on their website, and I'm going to paraphrase this, so for any legal people, please don't take me apart. pretty much along the lines of Samsung copied us, you know, they inferior design, yada yada, and they went through that way. That hasn't gone down too well. So Apple have now had a cease and assist on those statements, and have had to update their statements. And the judge in the UK has pretty much given them a verbal warning, if you like, around you cannot go out and do that, because Apple went out and basically just completely dissed Samsung across their website. So it has really been going head to head. These sort of legal websites where they put their T's and C's have actually become some of the highest rated websites because everyone's sitting there laughing in our industry what's actually been going on. And I think it's really, it's a time where obviously everyone's fighting for a position, and as you heard earlier in the show, Apple's now having to pick fights with everyone.
Well, I guess it's all about protecting your intellectual property, right?
Yeah.
Or what's perceived as your intellectual property. And this is where I think the patent wars are getting a little bit silly, right?
Yeah.
So Apple have patents on the nature of buttons on the screen.
Yep.
And as Samsung have sort of come back and said, you know, how can you patent a geometric shape? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And I guess it does to some degree, but, you know, I can see why you'd want to do that, right? You want to make, I mean, at the end of the day, you want to make money.
Yep.
And the design elements that Apple have brought to the industry are leading edge, no doubt about it.
Oh, unbelievable.
So you want to protect that as long as possible. But yeah, it is tricky to try and innovate in a space when you can't use the same shape.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I think if there's anything where you innovate and something's new, patent it. Like you said, where you've got shapes like triangles, squares with slightly rounded corners, circles, yeah, don't patent it because you know what, we've all been using those type of things. Look at the keys on a keyboard.
Yeah.
You know, it's that kind of thing. But Apple are the design geniuses. You know, Steve Jobs was the master of going to Xerox, looking at a mouse that Xerox created, and said, I can make that better for the users. Yeah. So, you know, they've always had that culture about them.
Yeah.
Now, in saying that, Apple recently fired 2 of its lead design guys and have replaced them with software. Now, I was having a really interesting chat with a gentleman called Nigel Parker, who we know very well here.
Right. Yep.
And we'll put his Twitter handle up at the end of the show if we from that side of things. But Nigel was also putting across the point that Apple is now starting to understand, like Google has, that software is king. Yep. Design is great, but software is king. And if you look at iTunes and other things, they're not the most intuitive pieces of software to use.
Right.
So now they're really focusing on the software part. So it's going to be interesting to see where whilst their design is still priority for them, that software is now taking over.
That's great. I mean, I love that idea. I mean, the hardware they've brought to market is fantastic. And we've kind of ragged a little bit about the fact that it's not anything new now. Right?
Well, that's for the iPhone, right?
That's for the iPhone and the iPad as well. I mean, it's the same sort of basic shape, but really, at the end of the day, I mean, how different can you make a device? I mean, and why change something that's so patently great in design anyway? So it's great to see them working into the software thing. I think the way forward for both Microsoft, Apple, and Google is that they are really meeting the needs of the market. As I say before, it's a great time to be a consumer because we're starting to see some great innovation. A few near misses on a few platforms and a few things, but it's still a great thing. It's a great experience for us to be able to be part of.
Now, you mentioned around the iPad.
Yep.
The iPad mini recently got released. Apple announced through their stats, and I think we need to be careful on whether it's Google, Microsoft, Linux, Apple, any stats by those vendors until they're independently verified can be creatively embellished. And if you watch any of the Apple keynotes or any of the Microsoft keynotes, they throw thousands of stats at you, and I always take them as a grain of salt.
Right.
But they've said they've sold 3 million iPad minis.
Yeah, that's great.
So this is their 7-inch design, the new iPad mini. It's a shrunken down version of the iPad. It still runs iOS 6.
Yeah.
It is a lower end build quality, but in saying that, the reports are getting out from people that have been using it. Friend of the show, Paul Thrott, who we've done some work with recently from Windows Supersite, has said he's fallen in love with it. Yeah. He says it's one of the best devices he's used in a long time. And I'm actually keen to get my hands on one because whilst I love my Surface, I'm keen to see, I love my Kindle as well.
Yeah.
and I use my Kindle when I'm traveling a lot. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But the big constricting thing is iOS 6 to me.
Right.
It's very old, very ancient, and by ancient IT terms, I mean there's been no major changes to how it looks and feels. It's just a small iteration of a tile-based system, well, of a square-based system.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that's got to hamper it, and we've got to see some refresh on that OS,
right,
to really take a leverage of the hardware. That's my view. What's your thoughts?
I like the idea that they have it's the full product range right now. It's very similar to what a lot of people are offering now. So you got the phone, you've got the mini tab, and you've got the full tablet, and then the PC, of course. Or sorry, I should say the MacBook. And it's great. It just completes the family. And a lot of people have said to me, why would you worry about having an iPad mini? Well, actually, there's a few good reasons to have an iPad mini in the sense of it is smaller to carry around. If you're a mobile worker, it's a great device to have, which is nice and small. Look, I think my big concern is that it's made of plastic, right?
Yeah, it's a plastic. It's not the nice sort of brushed chrome or how the iPad 2 or 3...
And it probably was a decision to try and reduce the price on that, to have it manufactured in plastic, because, let's face it, miniaturization doesn't come cheaply.
No.
So I'm just I'm a little nervous because I had a situation where I had a MacBook in the past made of plastic, and it cracked all over the place, and it was a manufacturing fault. It just occurred. So I'm a little nervous about how they're going to wear and tear, because they're pretty robust, the old iPads at the moment, until your son drops it on the deck or something. So I'm quite keen. I was expecting it to be more of a competitor towards the Kindle, right? Because I see in the States the Kindle Fire as being a huge...
they're everywhere. They are everywhere.
Yeah, they're growing rapidly. So if I was Apple, I think their biggest threat would be Kindle Fire, right?
Which is what they've built it for, I reckon.
Yeah, I know, but the pricing is a little bit askew from that, right?
$329 US versus the Kindle Fire HD $199.
Right.
But the Kindle Fire HD also has some larger models, and that's where it competes straight away.
Right. Okay. Well, that's cool. But that whole market space around the ebook reader is becoming really quite interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
And so we've talked about Kindle Fire on many occasions, you and I, and you love your Kindle Fire.
I do.
I think the iPad Mini is probably going to be a slightly better hardware build than the Kindle Fire, and better experience for you to enjoy.
Well, one of the things, I was just looking at the specs online. So Apple use an A series of chips. It's their own chip design.
Yep.
The iPads or the new iPhones are all what they call the A6, which is like their latest and greatest.
Yep.
iPad Mini is the one behind, the A5. So it's a lower spec CPU. You can get them in 16, 32, and 64 gig versions, Wi-Fi and 3G. But the key for me is that this Retina display. I think this is Apple's crown jewel at the moment in that 7-inch space, is that when you're buying a 7-inch device, you're buying it as a book reader. That's the primary device. Right. You're not buying it to type large, and you can use it for games, but it's a book reader. So you want the best screen out there right now. To me, it's the Retina display. Right.
Now, I want to bring up a device that you don't know too much about.
No, this is new.
None of us really do, because, well, to be honest, Kobo doesn't really rank on our radar as such. Now, we do have Kobos here in New Zealand in a few stores that I've seen. I think the Whitcoulls brand carries the Kobo range of devices. But there's a nice looking device coming through called the Kobo Arc. Now, this, I think, is the Kindle Fire competitor, right?
So who is Kobo? Where are they? Give us some briefing, because we don't know them in this country at all, right?
Right, yeah. So Kobo is just another alternative to the Amazon ecosystem. Full ebook system as well as, I mean, that's where they started from, as well as devices for ebook readers. And I think the Kobo devices are comparable to the Kindle devices. So Kobo Touch, Kindle Touch, very similar in spec. However, I'm really intrigued to see their new Kobo Arc, which is, they say the screen's a 16 million color screen. It has a 1.5 gigahertz dual core processor. It's apparently seamless and smooth. It's got surround sound. It does Wi-Fi. It has a micro USB port on it, which all of them should do these days anyway.
Default, right?
7-inch IPS display. I mean, this thing... and it runs open access, or it runs Android 4.0, but it has its own Kobo feel, right? So They have their own apps. They try and build up product for it that actually works very well. From the outset, preloaded, it comes with Facebook, Twitter, Skype. Has a 720 HD webcam on it, 1.3 megapixel apparently. Can play a lot of the Google Apps stuff, all preloaded.
It looks a little bit chunky though to me. I'm looking at it online here, and it's whereas the Apple and I think other devices have round bevel edge that we all come design hold. This is a very flat, quite sharp edged device. By that I mean it gives it an appearance of quite a not thick, but sort of quite chunky-ish.
But I just kind of felt that about the Kindle Fire, right?
Yeah, I'd agree. And the Kindle Fire is quite a thick device to use. It's got quite a bit of weight to it. The first time when I unboxed it in the hotel room, I was really surprised at it's got obviously a plasticky type backing. And it is quite a heavy device. And we'll bring it in a couple of weeks. And I'll show you it jailbroken running Jelly Bean 4.1.
Nice.
Quite nice to have a bit of a play. You can dual boot between the two. But yeah, it definitely is. It depends what you're coming down to. I mean, the Kindle Fire get amazing battery life. I don't know the battery life or hearing any reports of the battery life of the Mini. I don't want to go off the specs again. I want to actually get real world. But we should see if we can get one of these in the studio to have a play with.
I encourage you to go and have a look at kobo.com to have a look at their I guess offerings, because I'm quite surprised that they actually have a good range of offerings, And yeah, I agree they do look a little bit potentially a little bit mechanical, but I think it's not a bad thing. Now I think we've got time for just two more things. We're trying to wrap this within 30 minutes and failing miserably. Of course, it's way too much to talk about. Brad, just give us some thoughts. You've been playing with your Surface for a week now. Is it all that you hoped it would be?
Look, actually, you know what? I've actually had two aha moments. When you get an Apple device, and they're the benchmark in the industry right now for this moment, where you're what I call your out-of-box experience. When you get something and it just works. And I think we as enthusiasts always get something and we tinker it to make it work. I haven't had to tinker. I just turned it on, I entered my Live ID, or my Microsoft account, they call it now, and it just worked. As I mentioned earlier in the show, the only thing I wish it had would be a 3G or a 4G slot where I could actually plug that in. I'm sure that's coming, either in the Pro version or later versions. But yeah, it is actually. It's everything I wanted to do. I have stopped using my iPad at home. I have stopped using my Ultrabook, as I said. This is my device. I can type. There's little things that I'm starting to appreciate about the device. And look, it's going to sound silly, but when you've got the device and you are typing on it and you pick it up and flip the keyboard around, as soon as it rotates around and touches the back, it deactivates the keyboard.
Yeah, it's cool.
Little things like that where they've obviously thought, well, we don't want people holding it and actually typing away. And it works my own. Actually, no, that's about it at the moment for me. I mean, from an app side of things, I'm actually, that's really impressed me, the amount of apps that are there. In fact, I can't download. I'm like, keep downloading. One of the big problems I have had is with Skype.
Right.
Now, Skype on Windows 8 have changed the way they do things. And what they've done is Microsoft have got rid of their live accounts, which was their online login system. And they're calling it a Microsoft account now. And you can associate your Microsoft account with your Skype account because Microsoft bought Skype. And the idea is that you can get all your live ID into your Skype and you have the one family together. If you associate the wrong live ID, which is different to the one you log on to your Surface, you cannot log into Skype because it keeps asking you to swap it around. So I'm going through the process now where you have to submit a help desk call. They will unbind it and you'll log in with your correct Microsoft and away you go.
Possibly only a problem for your unique situation because you have around 50 Microsoft accounts or live accounts.
Live accounts, yeah.
So yeah,
but I've seen a few people out there saying, "Well, I've got a Gmail. So I've got a Gmail and I've got a Live, and I've associated my Gmail or something like that, and I didn't mean to do that one." So if you are doing it on Windows 8, make sure if you're going to associate it for the first time, you get the right Live account to do it or Microsoft account to do it. So I'm going through that pain. I'm going to do a blog article on how to do it because it's quite an interesting process in dealing with the Skype help desk team. So far, really, really good experience. I did the online chat with one of their guys at midnight. Got on, he was 5 minutes. Yep, this is what you got to do. Really, really clear. So I've documented that down. We'll be up on Geeksphere.tv on one of the blog posts on how you can get around these little quirks and that. But overall, yeah, I would give it an 8 or 9 out of 10 so far.
Cool.
Battery life is 2 days.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
I know. It's just. I mean, I used heavy usage and I got a day, as in I was watching videos continuously. But looking at it right now, this has been going for a day and a half, and I've still got half a battery. So it is a really, really good device. If you do want to get them, Microsoft.com, the online store, or our friends in Australia, you can get them from over there. So if you've got any relatives over there, hey, their dollar's a lot stronger than the US dollar.
Yeah, and no word on the New Zealand release date just yet. But well, as soon as we find out, we'll let you know. We'll scream it from the rooftops. Right, just to wrap this up, we did mention before that Microsoft kind of brought a country.
Yes, they did.
For a night. And they set up Halo 4 in it.
Yeah.
So the boys at Microsoft, I think UK-based, went and bought Liechtenstein, a small nation.
As you do.
As you do. And turned it into the Halo 4 battlefield.
It's been 5 years since Halo 3 launched, and fans have been waiting all that time for Halo 4 and the return of the Master Chief.
We're going to take people out of their real lives for a few hours and plunge them into the dark mountains of Liechtenstein, where we are creating the Halo universe.
Making the unreal real is a very exciting thing to do.
Go, 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 go!
The thing that we really focused on with Halo 4 is really showing a more personal, intimate Master Chief. Now he's got his own story.
Halo is about sort of this sense of like mystery and curiosity and exploration and all of these things, and those are all like emotions and attributes that you experience today.
It was like Halo, but in real life. It's just a good game. It's just, it combines all the elements, it ticks all the boxes that I look for as a gamer.
Halo was the first one to do what it does, as well as it does it.
Today it was amazing plus great. I don't know which one is better, but it was something that I will remember for the rest of my life.
I think of all of the launches, this has been the most creative, the most sort of encompassing, and to come to a location like this to celebrate it with our most devout Halo fans has just been fantastic.
Wow, it's just completely nuts, right?
Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, and Master Chief, the Warthog, the whole 9 yards, explosions, and you saw the looks on those gamers' eyes. I mean, they, this is the moment they'll remember for the rest of their lives. Possibly the weirdest thing I've heard for a long time from a gamer. But it actually makes sense, because people have brought into the Halo universe for a very long time.
Well, it's become an augmented reality for them almost, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, great job there on the promo, and I don't know if I've seen a launch that good for a long time. So yeah, no, good work. So,
yeah, and the guys at Xbox New Zealand, I saw on TV3 News the other day, they had a massive launch here. They had thousands of people, and a young lady was the first. She'd been waiting 12 hours to get her first copy.
Yes, I couldn't. I was a little bit surprised that gamer chicks are out there, man.
Oh, they're hardcore.
They're becoming more mainstream than I'd actually ever thought that would be the case. But yeah, good launch in Auckland the other night, and of course Halo 4 you can pick up now. And I think some of the Microsoft Xbox guys are off in Japan at the moment for another launch of the game.
Yep, they're over there with the team now, and we're hopefully going to get in contact with them and see if we can get some video from the launch in Japan and show you what was going on over there, because that was quite a big event as well.
Yeah. Right, well, we'd really have pushed the limit and run out of time, which is nothing new, really.
Nope.
So we are going to leave off a couple other things. We're going to discuss UFB next week around, this UBF, UFB, unbundled fibre.
I'm not even going to go there because the debate will start.
I know.
Let's do it next week.
Fibre to the home, people. It's coming to your house in a decade near you.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a bit of a debate. I have a bit of a sore point about it. I think it has its pros and cons, but we'll debate that next week for getting into it. But if you want to, as always, technology never waits for us, and we've got our website, Geeksphere.tv. you can go to. We try and update that regularly with reviews and a little bit of news that interests us. You can also see some Geek Bites, some previous episodes that we have filmed. A little thing that Brad did with some lady called Amanda Tapping, or Sam Carter from Stargate, if you're that way inclined.
Yep.
And there's heaps of other little things that we're going to put up there. There's an updated Netflix document on how you can actually get Netflix working here in New Zealand. Very detailed, very up-to-date, very accurate, I might put it. So that's worth having a look at. And of course, you can follow us on Facebook. We're at facebook.com/Geeksphere TV. We're also on Twitter at Geeksphere TV. Brad can be followed on
at the Gadget Guy NZ.
Fantastic, and you can follow me at Urban Kiwi NZ. But until next week, we look forward to your feedback and some comments, and we'll see you next time around.
See you guys.